Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabela with Hardlands Media. Now in the past, Hardlands Media has talked about gentrification, people being displaced in the city of Chicago, because let's face it, property values are going up, renters are dealing with ridiculous increase in rent, and people are being displaced. This is something that we are all too familiar with on the north and south side areas of Chicago, and we've interviewed a lot of activist groups, a lot of groups that are trying to make sure that the homeowners and people who've lived in the city of Chicago for generations actually continue to live in this city so that the next generation can still live in the same neighborhoods that they've been living in for generations. Now, I'm proud to introduce two representatives from the from the Northwest Side Housing Center. This is a group we've covered in the past when we were on the radio and on CAN TV. And gentlemen, for our viewers and subscribers, this is a chance for them to be reintroduced to you guys, especially to your organization. Can you please tell us who you are? Ernie, we'll start off with you.
Okay, I'm Ernie Lukasik, and I'm the housing organizer at Northwest Side Housing Center. We're located at 5233 West Diversey, and we are a HUD-certified nonprofit. Now, I got into being housing organizer, Kit, mainly because back in 2008, when there was the crisis with the housing, I needed help, and I went to Northwest Side Housing Center and eventually became a leader and then started working in the court mediation program for them because I had been someone who was going to lose their house. We were looking for a modification. We were fighting the banks. It took 2 years for me to get a modification. And not only did it take 2 years, I had to exhaust all my savings because the banks wouldn't help me. We found out about dual communication. We found out about underwriting problems that were constantly happening. And I used to live in North Center. I don't know if you, are you familiar with that? I'm sure you are, on Lincoln Avenue, between Lincoln and Damon. And North Center, my taxes went up from $5,000 to almost $12,000, which we were going to relocate. Since we were an empty nest at that time, we went a little bit further west, which helped. But again, I was an independent contractor at that time, and work had just started to dry up and everything. I worked for a lot of different people. They were losing their businesses as well as retiring or probably passing away.
Right.
But when that happened, I found Northwest Side Housing Center, and they are very active. That's the one great thing about that. We work with people who need modifications, who are losing their homes. We work with people who have any problems with housing. We work with the youth. We work with the elderly.
Right.
It's a HUD-certified nonprofit.
Right, and so you guys were dealing with a lot of issues in regards to ensuring that homeowners and renters, especially in your area of the city of Chicago, were actually getting the resources needed. Because I think a lot of our viewers may not be aware of this, especially when we were really starting off way back in 2017, 2018. It almost seems like a lifetime ago. But there was at least the group that was in charge of giving relief to homeowners and renters, was the funds were being denied in a way. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, with the banks and with the dual communication, and it's happening again.
Okay.
That is the sad thing right now, because dual communication is happening. They are selling the mortgages to other investors or other mortgage companies, and then they in turn sell it to a different investor. Freddie and Fannie is government-backed. They're doing a lot of private investors now who will not do a modification. They refuse to do a modification. And since we've lost, I'm sure you remember Glass-Steagall,
Right.
which we never had a problem since Roosevelt put it in. And unfortunately, it was actually Clinton who disbanded Glass-Steagall. But once that was gone, there were no regulations, and the end of that was 2008.
Right.
And that's when everything just fell because there was no regulation on the banking industry. Dodd-Frank came along, and which was really a Band-Aid. Dodd-Frank all of a sudden is gone because, again, we are back to no regulations. And when we don't have any regulations, the banks will play.
Now, we also actually have a homeowner, and you're also a representative with the Northwest Side Housing Center. Sir, for our viewers, can you at least introduce yourself to them
Sure.
and just kind of give us an idea about really what you are dealing with and what your fellow neighbors are actually dealing with, especially
Sure.
on the Northwest Side of Chicago?
My name is Mitchell Kasperzik. I'm part of the Homeowners United at the Northwest Side Housing Center. I originally came to the Northwest Side Housing Center with a problem with taxes. It was a property tax deferral program for seniors, and there was a big mix-up with all this stuff. And I had gone to my elected officials with this problem, and they all told me to go to the Northwest Side Housing Center. So my catchphrase always is, when government fails you, you go to the Northwest Side Housing Center because they help you fix what's going wrong. So I went there with this problem. Took a couple of years. I've been with them now for about 2 years, and we've kind of gotten it straightened out. I became a member of this Homeowners United. We've been trying to get property tax relief for not only residents, people that own property, homeowners in the area, but for senior citizens that own homes in the area. Senior citizens are faced with being house rich and cash poor. They don't really have a lot of money for taxes, and with the rising taxes going up all the time, it's a big problem. And now with the the unfair taxing of property owners and residential owners, small businesses, and these big commercial buildings downtown being given all these tax breaks, the brunt of the taxes go on to the homeowners.
Right.
So we're strapped with making up the costs that people like Donald Trump doesn't pay in their fair share, that what they're supposed to be paying in their fair share of taxes on buildings.
Right.
And I don't mean to just single him out. There's a lot of other people with big commercial properties, but
In fact, there's a whole big story behind in regards to why we currently have the system we have in the first place.
right. And so the thing is that the homeowners are being hit with this property tax that you can no longer afford. And seniors, if it wasn't really for this deferral program, they wouldn't be able to come up with the money on the fixed income that they're retired on to be paying these taxes all the time. So that's a big problem.
So I think I want to rewind back the clocks a little bit, because I think it's very important that we let our viewers know about this. Again, when we started taking off on YouTube, we were doing a lot of coverage on radio, television, and on Facebook. And we did do a substantial coverage of the 2018 midterm election cycle. And during that election cycle, there was the race for Cook County Assessor. Now, what a lot of people are not aware of is that the Office of Cook County Assessor is basically in charge of taxes. And the person that was used to be in charge, Joe Barrios, basically had a very corrupt, very nepotistic office in which most of his close friends and relatives were in that said office. And the problem is that there was a system put in place where basically the brunt of the cost of living in Cook County, city of Chicago, was put on homeowners, whereas the downtown loop area was basically given tax breaks, or basically they're not paying anything at all. So I think we'll start off with you, Michael, about Mitchell. So apologies for that. Mitchell, about Joe Barrios, how it impacted you and your neighbors, and then Ernie, I want you to explain a little bit more about what we had to deal with under Barrios, and now what Fritz Kagi has to deal with as well.
Right on.
Well, with Joe Barrios in the assessor's office, the big breaks, of course, were being given to these big commercial properties. And like in my situation with seniors, we were given these exemptions, like you get the senior freeze, senior homeowners exemption, and so forth. And those are merely Band-Aids on the situation, because, they'll give you a couple $100 off, but then the taxes go up, so you're back to where you were in the beginning. You're not really getting any discounted in your tax rate that you're paying. And it was due to this unfair, assessment system that was in place, and that's why Joe Barrios was voted out of office, because it was just
overwhelmingly voted out.
Overwhelmingly voted out, right. And so now that Fritz Kagi is the new county assessor, and he's trying to correct all this, and he's got this bill out there called SB 1379, and it's down in Springfield. It did pass the Senate. It went on to the House of Representatives, where it was going to pass at the House of Representatives, and Madigan's people pulled it and they sent it to committee. So now that's where it's currently stalled in committee. And at the Northwest Side Housing Center, we're working on that, trying to get that out of committee so it could be put in for a vote, and a new assessment can be put in place, and the commercial properties will be paying what they're supposed to be paying and give some tax relief to the individual owners, the homeowners.
Right. And now, Ernie, let's hear a little bit more elaboration. What really Fritz Kagi has to deal with. But also, I think it's very important to ask this secondary question too: is the Northwest Side Housing Center working with other activist groups? Because this isn't just a problem on the north side. This is a south and west side problem of the city of Chicago. Because the south and west side areas have been really heavily hit with gentrification and basically the city displacing, a lot of people.
There is the Justice League that we started when we were looking at Lift the Ban.
Right.
And that's 31 organizations, and we're working with those 31 organizations. As a matter of fact, we have our town hall tomorrow. I have put out emails to all 31 organizations. We also have a digital postcard that we're sending Speaker of the House Madigan to ask him to bring out SB 1379 because it's very important. When Kagi was running, we had Rayla and Kagi, and I think you guys were there at a forum that we had. We had asked whoever won, would you come back to our Homeowners United, which is about 12 to 15 people on our committee.
Right.
Mitch is one of our co-chairs. Right. And Kagi won. He came back. He's seen us 3 times. We had asked him for various things. One of them was, since seniors are seniors, they're not going to be younger the next year.
Right.
Could you please have the exemption for more than a year? Because they forget sometimes, and they'll forget about putting the exemption in. But he now has that as state law. It is every 5 years starting next year. So he was really good about that. When we had Homeowners United had a gentrification clause. We had a homeowners bill of rights. And that bill of rights we took to the Progressive Caucus of City Hall. They loved it because we were tired of gentrification. We had a gentrification clause. Without going into any details, when we showed it to Kagi, he said, this is terrific. It's terrific for you, but it's going to hurt the suburbs.
I have to ask a quick follow-up because I think it's very important we get both of your perspectives on it. And again, everyone has a different perspective. But compare your interaction with our new Cook County Assessor, Fritz Kagi, to our former Cook County Assessor, Joe Barrios. Did you have that amount of access and communication with his office?
None.
Mitch?
I didn't have any connection or access to him at all,
I think that explains a little bit to our audience too, because we have a national audience. Chicago politics is very insulated, and if you're not in the system, you're going to be ignored. So basically, this is a very transparent office that we're seeing with our new Cook County Assessor. But now there is a town hall happening. I think it's very important because it's going to be happening tomorrow during the debate. The 4th Democratic primary debate, so a lot of people may not be aware that this is happening. But can you explain, both of you, in your own terms, of the significance of it? Mitch, we'll start off with you, and then Ernie, you can elaborate further.
Oh, this is really a great event for us to be holding, and to have 3 representatives, state representatives there, as well as the Cook County Assessor, and they will be presenting what Fritz Kagi, I think, will be presenting what he's been doing to try and move this along and to try and bring the tax relief to the individual homeowners, and commercial properties pay their fair share. I know he's hitting a lot of brick walls with his SB 1379 legislation that he's trying to get out there. But he's determined. I think he'll get it out there. I think it's going to pass. Hopefully it'll pass. And then for the representatives to be there, and it's going to be one-on-one. People are going to be able to ask questions to these representatives and to Assessor Kagi himself, and get direct answers from him. In fact, I had mentioned a couple of things to Fritz Kagi at our meetings and so forth, and he took care of them. He actually did take care of them. So
it's
he
a
does
rarity in
listen,
Chicago
and
politics.
he does act on what he says he's going to do. He will act on it. So
it's really refreshing because I think we're kind of used to that system not working. So Ernie, I think let's explain a little bit. Let's go a little bit further into this because of the significance of this town hall. You're having basically voters and constituents, homeowners, renters, basically really addressing a lot of concerns that's happening all over the city of Chicago. Now, this is going to happen in one specific area, but the significance of it, and then the aftermath, the follow-up, what's going to happen next?
Okay. Well, first off, when Fritz came and we talked about our gentrification clause, his big thing was it's going to hurt other people. We decided we didn't want to hurt anyone, and we brought up the downtown buildings because we said, well, wait a minute. We had done a couple other town halls. There was a quote from the Tribune that Alderman Burke, with his tax firm, was making was saving Donald Trump $14.6 million for 4 years. So with that kind of quote, we went, what about these? They're not paying their fair share. If they're not paying their fair share, that means that we're paying more than our fair share, which was also highlighted with the Barrios Grotto paper things that were happening in the Tribune, the articles in the Tribune. When he heard that, he said, well, that is true. They're not paying their fair share. And that's when he came up. He actually came up with 1379. So we feel pretty close at Homeowners United that we kind of helped or started to push this bill. And that's why we're working very hard to make sure that it gets out. We know we have enough votes. There definitely are enough votes, but we need to get it out of committee. We get it out of committee. Now, Madigan, House Speaker Madigan has recused himself because he has a tax firm. And he said he cannot vote on it. But meanwhile, it's still sitting in committee. So it's finding out how. That's what we want to do tomorrow night. We want to find out who do we have to go to, who can bring it out of committee. Do we need to go to Governor Pritzker? Because I remember Blagojevich one time had a bill that he actually went around and in the House, made sure that they voted and got it out of committee. So if that's what we have to do, that's what we'll do. We want to find out the right way of doing it. We don't want to yell, scream. We feel that it's definite. It has to be there. Otherwise, there is no relief. Now, it's a modernization bill that is modernizing the data so it'll be fair. And if it's fair and transparent,
Right.
because with Barrios, nothing was ever transparent. But if this happens, what it really does is it will bring down the levies. Once there's fair assessment across the board, it'll bring down the assessment. For homeowners, what it'll do is it's not going to be lowering your taxes, but it'll be taking away the overshare that you've been paying, which will be in the percentage of 10 to 20%, or from what I've been understanding.
Right.
So what we plan to do is find out our answers tomorrow night of where it's going. Can we get it out of committee? The more you wait, if you're going to be waiting till next year to get it out, you're already a year behind.
Right.
2 years behind, really, because you could start it now.
Right.
So we want it out now. We don't want to wait till next year. So what is the avenue? Where do we go to find that avenue is what we want to find out tomorrow. I know Assessor Kagi, he'll be answering questions until the last one is asked. He will also answer any questions that people have about their taxes where they felt they were unjustified. And he will ask them to go to one of his people afterwards, make sure they give him the address, if they don't have their PIN number, and he'll look into it. This is how open and transparent this administration is.
So I think I want to bring up something else too, and we've talked about this on the show. Chicago TIFs. Chicago's not broke. We mentioned this book written by Tom Tresher, Chicago's Not Broke, and the TIFs are available, but they're behind red tape. During any of these meetings, especially with the other people, groups in your 31 coalition, has there been any talk about actually getting the city of Chicago, reaching out to Mayor Lightfoot to use the TIF funds to help out homeowners and renters? Because we do have resources, we do have money. It's just, it's behind red tape, a lot of
Right,
political
a lot of
red
it.
tape.
We have, and we have in many different ways. I think if you remember the $1 billion deficit that they're talking about.
Right.
And that kind of hurt everything. And yet I was very encouraged that Mayor Lightfoot found $285 million without adding any more burden on taxpayers. It's going to happen. I mean, the pension problem is so enormous, something has to be done. It has to be redone. So, yes, when you mention the TIF, Airbnb, when those taxes were originally going to go for homeless, and eventually Emmanuel just took them and he put it to the different aldermen for TIF, which was used for whatever they wanted to do, in whatever they wanted to have paid. Now we had the transfer tax. Mayor Lightfoot actually took the transfer tax. That was supposed to go for affordability and for the homelessness. But unfortunately, she took that tax to try to pay off some of the pension.
Right.
So, yeah, the TIF it's going to be a long, hard-fought journey, and I don't know where it's going to go. Lift the ban has to go. Rent are out of proportion here. And again, when you look at it, the landlord, if he gets a break on his tax, can possibly keep that rent affordable. But at this point, no. Everyone is trying to make ends meet, and there's no way of doing it.
Right. And now, Mitch, this is going to be my final question to you. Because it's going to be a two-part question.
Okay.
Number one, you're a homeowner.
Correct.
So you're talking to your friends and your neighbors. You're also on the board with the Northwest Side Housing Center. You're involved in your community. What are some of the concerns that you're hearing from your neighbors, your friends about, if something's not done? And what do you also want to say to the political leadership in Springfield and Cook County and the city of Chicago if they continue to turn a blind eye to something that's impacting the entire city, homeowners and renters?
Right. Well, the neighbors, when I talk to my neighbors about the main issue always is the property taxes keep going up. That's a main concern. And of course, like you said, or like Ernie was just saying, when the property taxes go up, it gets passed on to, if you have an income property, it gets passed on to the renter who's ever renting that particular unit. So it will affect everybody if the property tax can be held or frozen or kept down to a point where people could afford to live in apartments, And right now, affordable is, for an apartment, multiple, like two-bedroom apartment, right around $1,000 is affordable. If you got a one-bedroom, maybe about $700 a month, somewhere in through that area. But some of these rents in some of the areas they're way over $1,100. They're up around $2,000, sometimes $3,000. There's a building they wanted to put up at Six Corners on Cicero and Irving, where for a one-bedroom was going to be $4,000 a month. And for a two-bedroom was $7,500 a month.
And my only question is, who can afford to
that,
rent that?
right, exactly.
In this city?
And they were saying basically it was supposed to be for seniors. They were going, what senior on a fixed income has that kind of disposable income to be paying $7,000 for a month for rent?
That doesn't exist.
It just doesn't. And then the thing with seniors also, there really is no senior housing, so to speak, in the area we're at in Portage Craig, Portage Park. And they're trying to bring some of that into the area,
Right.
the senior housing and so forth. But right now there's a 3 to 5 year wait for senior housing in the city of Chicago, which is, that's a long time. If you want to get something down the road, you better apply for it now because otherwise you're not going to get anything.
And what would you say, it's the second part of my question, to the political leadership in Springfield, in Cook County, and in the city of Chicago if they continue turning a blind eye to this?
Right. Well, I had said this Ernie will like this. I had said this at the Aldermanic Forum a couple of months ago, where I started off by saying to all our elected officials, remember that we voted for you. We didn't vote for your chief of staff. We didn't vote for your office manager, your secretary. We voted for you. And when we have a government problem that we need to be taken care of, we want to speak to you, the person we voted for, not somebody you hired to work for you,
Right.
And most of the time, these elected officials I don't know what they're doing, but they're apparently busy doing photo ops someplace, and they don't really have any time for the people that elected them into their office.
Right.
And when they get sworn in, they say that, I solemnly swear, blah, 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 blah. I do, and they're thinking, how do I get reelected? Now how do I take care of my constituents, the people that voted me in the office, but how do I get reelected? So there's, they do have the aldermanic positions in the city of Chicago. I have Monday nights that are supposed to be accessible for people to come in. I've never gone to any of them. I don't know if they are accessible or not, but supposedly they are. And as for the state reps and for county commissioners and so forth, I don't know if they do have any kind of weekday that they're in your office where you can go and ask for something. But I'm almost positive if you go in and you say, well, I want to talk to my commissioner, they'll say, well, this person will take care of you, and they're back in their office again.
Right.
So I don't know how effective they would be in helping you, but they'd probably push it off to somebody else.
All right. And Ernie, final question for you. For our viewers and subscribers, if they want to learn more about the Northwest Side Housing Center, number one, where can they find them online? And then number two, for this town hall that's going to be taking place, where is it going to be at, and who will be there attending that town hall? Who will be the 4 speakers?
We have County Assessor Fritz Kagi will be there. State Representative Louis Arroyo, State Representative Will Gazzardi, and also State Representative Lindsay LaPointe. And they will be answering questions. And we do want to press them on, we want final steps. We want to make sure that we have someplace to go after we finish tomorrow. Tomorrow night, after we want to tell the people what we can do, where we're going to go next with it, because we're not going to let it go. For Northwest Side Housing, and I should know this by heart, it's www.nwshc.org, which would be Northwest Side Housing Center. Easier to say than to say the letters.
All right.
.org. But our website is there. We post everything on that website, and they can get a hold of us. Again, we're at 5233 West Diversey, and our phone number is 773-283-3888.
And the forum tomorrow is at Steinmetz High School.
Right.
At 3030 North, what is it?
Berry.
Oh, yeah, right.
Berry, which is actually, it's the Steinmetz College Prep
Prep,
High
right.
School. And it's from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. 6 o'clock, we'll have food for people. 6:30, we're going to begin, and they should be out probably by 10 to 8.
All right. Well, that's a very good note to end on, gentlemen. Thank you both for attending Heartlands Media. I think it's very important that we get this perspective and make our audience aware that, look, Chicago is a major metropolitan city, but there are people right now that are struggling right now to make ends meet, and now more than ever is the time to get involved, and especially to our local city audience. This is a time where you have to fight for your homes, fight for your communities, because the city of Chicago is influenced by money and politics. And the only way we can reverse this corrupt system is by being actively involved. And that's what this one group, Northwest Side Housing Center, is trying to do. And they are making their voices heard. This is why we need to have more participation in our electoral systems and why we need to do what we have to do to fight for a better future. This is Kit. Peace and take care.
And Kit, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.